Welcome to Daily Steps from One Extraordinary Marriage, where we outline simple steps that you can take to have the ultimate marriage adventure. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. In today's show, we answer the question, how can we possibly get along when it seems like we have grown so far apart?
Some variation of this question seems to come up in almost every single coaching call.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be something like, this isn't the person that I married, right? Or we're so different. We can't have a conversation. We aren't on the same page financially. We aren't having sex. Like, we're just so far apart. How can we possibly find our way back to one another?
Yeah, how do we find ourselves back to that place when we were so in love that we were able to say yes to the engagement and I do before our friends and family?
It's true. This person was at one time your everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, now people even refer to their significant others as my person, right? Like, this is my person. And then when the wheels start to fall off, you're like, that's not my person. I don't know who that person is, but that's not my person. And one of the things that we have to do, and it's the reason we get behind these microphones, is to remind you that when things are disconnected, when you're in a bad place, to look at it as being a season or like a chapter in a book. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not the end of the book. It's a chapter. And there are still more chapters to be written after this season. I would say virtually every couple, if you've been married for any length of time, you have found yourself saying, who the heck is this person? And why was this a good idea to get married?
Been there.
I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. We've been, these statements that I read, I think we've probably said them for Team DeLorenzo at some point in time over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the fact of the matter is that I knew there were times, 4 years in when I came home from work one day and we'd grown so far apart that I told Tony, hey, you know what? I'm looking up divorce attorneys because I didn't know who he was anymore. I didn't know what our dreams were. I didn't know what this life was that we were trying to create because it sure didn't feel like we were trying to create anything together. Honestly, you guys, we were coexisting in the same place and we weren't even doing that very well.
Nope. Sure weren't.
Right. And I know that we aren't the only person, but the fact is that it's true. You don't know who this person is anymore. There are nuances between the two of you in your personalities and your communication styles that you don't understand. There are still, I've known Tony for 24 years. There are still nuances in his personality that I'm kind of like, wow. Well,
and I would even say to that, as you get older, as you are together longer, you do change. Life does happen. And so that person that you did meet, and like Elisa would say, 24 years ago, well, I was a 21-year-old. I just turned 21. And a lot happens from 21 into your mid-40s. And that is in all areas of life, from getting married to having kids, to seeing your kids grow up, to losing jobs, to starting businesses, to losing businesses, to having close friends, to not having close friends anymore, to having family members go, like they're gone, they're now in heaven, losing a dad, seeing her parents go through a hurricane. Things happen in life that we change and we do grow. And so I think one of the big things here is that we forget that. And we have been disconnected for so long that when we try to get to know them again, that chasm seems so big. And yet they're growing just like you've been growing and going through life just like you've been going through life. So we got to get you guys back on track to that emotional intimacy so you can reconnect again. And it may take a little more time because, they may be different. I wouldn't doubt it. And yet it doesn't mean that they're not the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with.
Oh, that's so good. And as you were talking about that, I was just thinking so often it's just a matter of having the right tools.
I agree. It is.
Right. Because let me take you out of the marriage relationship for a second. When you find yourself having a problem with your car, right? It's making that funny sound. It's doing that little shimmy thing. Right? You don't just leave your car by the side of the road and see you later and, bye-bye, all done. You take it into the mechanic and you're like, it's doing something, don't know what it is, run it through a diagnostic, tell me what needs to be fixed. Tell me what the peculiarities are about this particular situation. Mm-hmm. That's what we do with our cars. That's what we do with our health, right? We'll go to see a doctor and we'll have that same conversation. And yet in our marriages, we're like, doesn't feel quite right. It's shimmying. It's got to shake. It's doing that thing. Yeah, you're disposable, right? I'm going to disconnect from you. I'm going to disconnect. And so it's getting to this place of saying, you know what are the diagnostics?
Mm-hmm. Love it.
That we need at this season of our life? What are the tools that we need? How do I know what you need, what your top needs are, right? How do I know how your personality is wired to match up with my personality? Because I know we got, like, on some levels, we're doing okay, but on other levels, like, there's just something, like, you just do things differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so often, we don't take the time to actually go into this place of saying, what don't I know? And the fact of the matter is that what you don't know about your spouse and how they're wired and what their needs are, this is definitely an area where what you don't know can be divisive in your relationship. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you take the time, just like companies do when they're hiring candidates, I mean, what do? Nowadays there's like all kinds of personality profiles and online assessments and all of these different things to make sure that they understand the person that they're hiring. Well, here the two of you are married, right? You're in this lifelong relationship. What would it look like if the two of you kind of were able to get inside the personality, inside the time styles, inside the financial styles of each other and understood it, and didn't just understand it from like okay, here it is in black and white, but understood it in such a way that you could take that knowledge and use it to create the extraordinary marriage that you desire.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because when we get to know one another in that way, it's not just a guessing game anymore. Mm-hmm. We can look at this and go, this is who I am, and this is who my spouse is. And this is how we complement each other, and this is how we don't complement each other. And yet we have the tools to be able to learn from that and grow from that. If you know it's time to dig deeper into your marriage, if you know that there are nuances you want to understand, check out oneextraordinarymarriage.com/our profile.